So yeah, as you can tell from the title, Elite Beat Hero is back. And when I mean back, I mean it's back to its old self. The old Bubble Beat is now back and ready to roll. I figured I might as well give this a bit of a crack since we're in a bit of a different format. Seen some builds on it and I was just like, you know what, bring this shit back. My Zero Dad deck that I had was kind of just sucking, to be honest. It just wasn't really the type of thing I felt comfortable playing, and so that's why I didn't even do a deck list video of it, because it just wasn't really my type of deck. So yeah, anyways, back to our Elite Bubble Beat Hero, if you could call it that, but it is just Elite Beat Hero, but with the Bubble Beat, but whatever. Anyways, moving onward. So to start things off, we've got our aliases. We have our spark targets. Bash this thing into Thunder King and hope you don't hit Honest, but of course most people that run Thunder King do not have Honest because not everything is Hunters and Light Swans or anything like that. So I don't even know why Light Swans would run Thunder King, but whatever. Yeah, basically just your primary beat stick. Really good to search, really good to sit on for a little while. 3 Bubble Man. So for the new look, I've gone for the 3 Bubble Man. I haven't ruled out dropping this thing to 2 yet, of course, because I know I've had problems with it clogging up in the hand in the past. That's why I'm spending the couple of weeks testing and not playing it at locals tomorrow. I'm playing Macro Rabbit instead, and I'll do a deck list of that alongside with the tournament report. So yeah, but yeah, 3 Bubble Man. There's your 0 targets specials. They just go with they just pretty much wreck face alongside your other heroes to go for your rank 4 Xyz plays. And the Stratos gets the search. The Stratos, of course, being the hero staple. The search wrecks shit up back row wise if you have enough stuff on there. It's always nice. 1 Thrasher, because I kind of feel that one is perfectly enough. You can run 2 if you want, but I definitely prefer to stick with the 1 because I like to fit in other stuff, like this one, the Silver Sentinel. Now I've seen a couple of Bubble Beat Hero decks, and none of them run this, and I'm actually kind of dumbfounded as to why, because this thing has so much synergy with the Bubble Beat setup. It's Earth, it is Warrior, so you can go with your Excalibur and Blade Armor plays among all your other stuff. Earth attributes, so your Gaia is now live with Miracle Fusion. And here's the thing, you can set up in your back row. So if you got this sitting in your hand with your Stratos and say your Bubble Man or something like that, this thing's not going to impede on that, because you're just going to set this on the back row. And with all these back row crazy card sets that are coming out now, with like the heavy infantries and the guerrillas and the 3 MSTs and the night beams and the heavy storms and other stuff, your graphers and shit like that, it's pretty safe to assume that this thing's going to get hit. And when they do, it's gonna hit back at your opponent during the end phase. It's really good, and I would recommend it for anybody who's trying to build a Bubble Beat deck. Like even if you put it in the side deck, it's still very good to use. So that's the monster lineup, just the 9. So for the spells, we have the searches, we have dualities, we have the e-calls, and the rotor. I'm thinking of boosting this up to 6 by incorporating a Warrior Returning Alive. I feel like that this deck is sort of like in top deck mode. It's not exactly it doesn't exactly do pretty well with top deck mode, which is why I wanted to go with the Warrior Returning Alive as a means of basically, if I top into this, in top deck mode, if you top into a Warrior Returning Alive, it is essentially a +3 if you have a Bubble Man engraved, because you just go with that and then bust the Bubble Man out and get the 2 draws. And such is the nature of the deck that you will be in top deck mode as a result of not having any cards in your hand. So that's pretty much the way I see Warrior Returning Alive work. Plus, of course, it's got other uses, so it gets back your Stratos, it gets back your aliases, if you don't have Hero Blast set that sort of shit up, so it's always handy. So for the fusion setup, I've got the 3 Miracle Fusions and 2 Super Polys. Now that Escuridao is legal, Super Poly is pretty much a staple in the main. 2 is fine. Don't really want 3 because it'll clog up in the hand, and we don't want that. Thing with this Super Poly is that I find and the whole thing with the clogginess is that this is more likely to clog than something like Gemini Spark, which is why Gemini Spark I feel more comfortable with rolling 3 of than this, because this requires a monster to be on the field, plus you have to ditch 1 as a cost. The Gem Sparks just have the targets, which are very easily searchable. You are likely to have them on the field, and that's why it's much easier. It's much better to have. It's much easier to roll 3 Gem Sparks than it is to run 3 Super Polys. And of course, like I said, 3 Gem Sparks, because yeah, I've seen a couple of builds roll 2, and I say fair enough, because if you don't feel comfortable about rolling 3 because of fears of clogginess, then fair enough. 3 MSTs. I'm thinking I might cut this down to 2, put the third one in the side deck in favour of that Warrior returning alive. We'll just have to see what happens in that case. We have the Triforce. People refer to it as the Trinity. I call it the Triforce because I just like that name better. So yeah. Anyways, traps to Hero Blast. That rounds off the little engine with Alias, alongside Alias and Gem Spark. It's just really awesome. That's one of the things I like about the deck, is this little engine, and there's another little bit of an engine with the E-Call, Stratos, Search, Bubbleman, blah 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 blah. There's just so many little engines that make this one big, pretty good deck, which is why I love it. Excuse me. Double Fiendish Chain. I was debating whether I wanted to play this or Breakthrough Skill. For now, I'm just sticking with this because it can stop the attacks as well as negate the effects, which is really nice. Then we have 2 Compulse, which is of course just that really good out to stuff. You know, like your Zen Mines. Can't believe I was going to pronounce it that. It just is Zen Mines. I don't think I need to. I am prepared to argue about that, but it totally is Zen Mines. But yeah, Zen Mines, My Stroke, everything with Xyz in it, and it's just, yeah, like Draco Sack as a card. Well, will be a card soon. Anyways, Double Bottomless, Solemn Judgment, Solemn Warning. Of course, got to have these things. Torrential, Mirror Force, and a Starlight Road. Starlight Road is just brilliant this time around. Yes, there's a lot of cards that just focus on popping 1 at a time, but it is still always good to have that insurance there. That's why I stick with it. So, anyways, extras. 3 Shinings. I'm thinking of cutting this down to 2 if I can get my hands on a second Nova Master. I will have to get a second Nova Master because 5 fits through a deck, of course. So if I would just drop one of these Shinings, no problems. But for now, I've just got the 3 Shinings because they're pretty much the front runners in terms of fusions. Then we've got Absolute Zero. So basically, if the Shining is the representation of God in this deck, this would be Jesus. It's just basically the whole right hand man thing. It's always good at 2 because you've got the Bubble Man, and of course Mermails are hanging around and shit, so it's very good to have these sitting around so you can Super Poly into their annoying shit like the Megalos and that sort of shit that can wreck you up big time. Escuri now. Of course, you've got a whole bunch of dark shit that you need to worry about. Evil Swarms, of course, now that they're out and everything. Big Eye is a dark attribute, which I didn't actually think it was a dark attribute. I kind of thought it was light attribute, but yeah, obviously it's a dark. Obviously, it's a good idea to go into this against that thing just to get that thing off the board, unless you're playing against Prophecies, in which case they will eventually have that stupid fucking spellbook of miracles. You think Prophecies could not possibly be any more broken, but apparently they are. And of course, can't forget, this makes Super Poly an additional out to My Stroke. Although I'm not sure why one would Super Poly My Stroke. Great Tornado, this makes Super Poly an out for Draco Sack, and as well as Gustos, because I do not want to lose to that matchup. Yes, they are crappy, but I hate them with a passion, so it's basically just like you know, you don't want to lose to a deck you hate. So yeah, and of course Harpies if they ever decide to become incredibly herpaderp, which they probably won't, because the only thing I've seen from them is an incredibly inconsistent OTK, or FTK rather, which is just stupid. Nova Master, of course, like I said before, 5 Fists are a deck. This makes also makes Super Poly I suppose more of a 2 card out, not so much a 1 card out, but sort of a 2 card out to Zen Mines. It's much better to hit Zen Mines than a Maestroke with a Super Poly, because Zen Mines wrecks shit up and Maestroke is just like, it pokes and basically Maestroke is like the prod from Worms, whereas Zen Mines is the Dim Mac boost that it gets. Like that death touch. So yeah, Gaia, like I said, it's live with the Silver Sentinel, and of course there is shit like Karakuris, there are scraps, there are machiners, there are gadgets, there's all that sort of fun stuff. And of course, if the opponent decides to go with that Elemental Dragon of Earth thing, I could go with that, but I'd rather wait until they stacked up into the Big Eye or the thing, and then just proceed to wreck face. But yeah, anyways, sorry about that. Still haven't gotten over that cough. Yeah. Okay. Exceed's Double Blade Armor Ninja, because I like this better than Excalibur. It just comes down to personal preference in terms of the Blade Armor and Excalibur numbers you run. I have one Excalibur because it's pretty much needed. I just stick with the Double Blade Armor because, yeah, personal preference. Most people go with the double Excalibur, because then they just dish out as much damage as they possibly can. In the case of stuff like Gauze and Trag being dropped, but Trag's not that big an issue, because if they hit, against something like Trag, I would most likely swing with the Blade Armors first anyway, and so if they drop Trag, I just run it over with Excalibur. Cowboy, I'm thinking of dropping this for an Abyss Dweller, because Mermails are still a card. Mermails are still an archetype, of course, so they're just sort of, yeah. And then Maestroke, I just have this. It's just a really good defensive option. And of course, this deck does not run rank 3 Caesars, so I felt Maestroke is necessary because yeah, Zen Mines is not really a card that's used in this. Then of course the Stardust, because Starlight Road is a card. Okay, side deck. We have 2 Thunder King. I don't really like this in the main. Some people run it in the main, but I just don't really like that much in the main. I think it's just better off sided against and just basically just wait until such point in time as I get pitted against a deck that really spams the shit out of Searching Prophecies. I'm looking at you, you frickin' sacky son of a bitch deck. Kaikus. These things put in a lot of work. They banish so much shit. It is I am dumbfounded at the amount of shit that this wrecks. It pisses off Graphers from the graveyard. It pisses off food for Hyperion and Christia. It drops food for Chaos Monsters. It gets rid of Light Swans from grave so that they can't go JD herpaderpaderp. It gets rid of so much shit. Miracle Fusion targets, actually. Yeah, Miracle Fusion targets, they're always good. Pretty much anything that would like to have a good graveyard strategy going is hurt by Kaiku. They're also hurt by this thing, Vanisher of the Radiance. Just as something a little bit different. I would probably try it in Macrocosmos or some D-Fissures, but I kind of want just to banish pretty much everything I possibly can. So that's why I've got the Banishers. Obviously, but yeah, like I said, I probably would throw macro in place of the. I'd probably throw macros in, but I just don't have the macros. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I've only got 2 copies, and they're in the Macro Rabbit deck, and I don't even have a third one in that side deck, so I don't know how I'm going to be faring against stuff that blows up a lot of back row. But yeah, basically I've got the double vanishes there, basically to serve as the sort of macro sort of thing for the deck. And I've got 2 parallel world fusions, just so that that macro thing hurts me a little bit less. It's probably not going to hurt me that much in general, because like if I can get the shining out anyways, it's going to be a massive beat stick. And of course, this is a card, you know, just send that shit back to the deck and bust out a shining. It's not that bad. Space Cyclone, you've probably seen this in a few of my decklist videos. It's just been kind of in and out of the side deck. I'm giving this a shot because Ophion is a card, and in the general idea of a Evil Swarm deck is to bust at the Ophion, detach, add a Pandemic to hand. So the initial thought here is basically to chain this to their detach, get rid of their other overlay units. So even if they get the Pandemic, there's not much they're going to do about it, because I will then be able, because that makes my Super Poly live. So it pretty much wrecks face. And of course, before I forget, of course, play this against a Lagia, it becomes nothing more than a 2/4 beat stick, which you can either just run over by overlaying into something, or just pretty much the like. And the odd Paladynamo if I ever see one of those light based decks, because I have seen agents played at my locals. So excuse me. Anyways, 2 Mind Crush. I figured, you know, there's a whole lot of searching going on lately, because, you know, Dragoons, Tenki, yeah, pretty much you just got your Dragoons, your Tenkies, your E-Calls, your Smoke Signals. You just got so much shit that adds shit to hand, and when E-Drags come out, they're probably gonna, like, I think a staple in E-Drags is Gold Sark. Just add a shitload of those to hand, so as soon as they go to hand, you pretty much have Mind Crush to just get rid of those. Although I probably wouldn't even side it in against E-Drags, because the shit in grave does not slow them down one bit. In fact, it probably speeds them up. So I probably wouldn't run it in that anyway. So of course, Double Pride for Raw. This is just a random tech idea that was suggested. Excuse me. Just a random tech idea that was suggested to me by a friend. What it does during damage calc, when your monster battles an opponent's monster, the opponent has higher attack, you pay life points equal to the difference in attack, and then your monster gains that difference in attack plus an additional 300. So this basically just ensures that you will win that battle. You just roll over them pretty much. You could say it's like an Honest, but nowhere near as just incredibly trollish and deadly. And of course, it's a trap, so play a Lance against it. It's not that hard to, it's not really that difficult to stop, but it is something random that your opponent would just be like, oh, what the fuck. And Epidemic Virus. If I do decide to take the 3rd MST out of the main and put it in the side, this is probably the thing that's going to get taken out. Yes, it is good for super polying into like a Reaper and then sacking Escurida with this and stealing off their spells. It is trollish as all hell, but there's not much else that this thing's going to come in handy for. I mean, Dark Worlds aren't really hurt that much by it, although they have much less discarding capability, so I suppose it's not that bad, provided of course they don't already have a Grapher Engrave. If they have a Grapher Engrave, then they still have the beat sticks up front to smack to wreck face. So, but yeah, that's basically just what that is, and this is been my updated Bubble Beat Elite Beat Hero build for the new format. So yay for that. See you for my tournament report video, which will probably be the next one. So yeah, bye.